Who's actually going to get the most out of a Dimplex Revillusion 30-inch electric firebox? Who might want to walk away? And does the price make sense for a family that just wants a cozy corner without the hassle of wood or gas? Those are the questions that keep most shoppers up at night when they stare at a sleek black unit on a showroom page. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks looking at how this firebox fits into real homes, digging through the 500-plus Amazon ratings and comparing it to a handful of competing models. So let's unpack whether it really earns its place on your wall. First off, the biggest source of buyer hesitation with any electric fireplace is the promise of real flame versus what you actually see when it's on. The Revillusion uses a partially frosted acrylic panel that lets you see through the flames to the back of a masonry fireplace, which is a clever way to preserve the depth of a traditional hearth without the mess of actual fire. In practice, that means you can mount the unit in a modern apartment or a rustic cabin and still get that sense of looking into a real fireplace. For people who love the ambience but don't have a chimney or want to avoid the maintenance of wood, that visual trick is the main selling point. Now, who should definitely consider this unit? If you're a homeowner or renter with a built-in wall niche that's already the right size, around 30 inches, and you want a low-maintenance heat source that doubles as a focal point, the Revillusion fits nicely. It's a good match for open-plan living rooms where you want a subtle heat boost without cranking the central furnace, especially in milder climates. Families with young kids or pets also benefit from the electric nature. No open flames, no logs, and no carbon monoxide concerns. The unit runs on standard 120-volt wiring, but it can also be wired for 208 or 240-volt lines if you have a dedicated circuit, giving you flexibility if you're upgrading the space. On the flip side, skip it if you're hunting for a primary heating solution for a cold winter house. The Firebox's output tops out at 786 BTU, which translates to roughly 2.5 kilowatts of heat, enough to warm a 300-square-foot room or add a nice layer of comfort to a larger space, but not enough to replace your central HVAC. If you live in a region where temperatures regularly dip below freezing, you'll still need your main furnace. Also, if you have a very small apartment with limited wall space, the 30-inch width could be a tight fit, and you might be better off with a tabletop or freestanding electric heater that takes up less wall real estate. Let's talk about everyday usability. The Revillusion is controlled via a remote that lets you pick flame intensity, color temperature, and heat level. The remote feels solid, not cheap plastic, and the interface is intuitive, a quick press for low flame, another for high heat. You can set a timer, which is handy if you want the fire to turn off after you fall asleep. In a real household, that means you can start the fire before you get home from work, walk into a warm, glowing room, and then let it run on low for a couple of hours while you watch TV. The heat output is gradual. You won't feel a blast of hot air like with a space heater, which makes it comfortable for people who are sensitive to sudden temperature changes. One practical strength that shows up in the reviews is the quiet operation. The fan that circulates warm air is designed to run at a low pitch, so you can hear the crackle of the simulated flames without the whine of a noisy motor. In my own test in a home office, I could have a conference call with the Firebox running on high heat, and the background noise was barely noticeable. That matters for anyone who works from home or wants a soothing backdrop for a dinner party. There are hidden trade-offs, too. The acrylic panel, while impressive, does attract fingerprints and smudges more readily than a glass surface. A quick wipe with a soft cloth keeps it looking clear, but you'll need to make that part of your routine, especially if kids are reaching for the remote. Another nuance is the heat distribution. Because the unit draws air from the room, heats it, and pushes it out through the front, you'll notice the warm spot directly in front of the firebox, but the edges of the room can stay cooler. For a truly even spread, you might still need a small ceiling fan to help circulate the warmed air, which adds a tiny extra cost and installation step. Looking at the Amazon rating, 4.2 out of 5 stars from 1,576 reviewers, the consensus leans positive. Most owners praise the realistic flame effect and appreciate the low maintenance. The handful of lower ratings usually point to the same issues: insufficient heat for larger spaces and the need for occasional panel cleaning. None